Welcome to Mollyman with Chris. My name is Chris. I'll be your host for this. And here's my team. All those wishing to speak, please raise your placards now. The chair recognizes the United Kingdom.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. First of all, this delegate would like to disagree with Argentina, as they have been known to use underhanded tactics in the pretzel distribution and worldwide pretzel trade. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Delegate.
Do I get right of reply?
Actually, Delegate, a right of reply should only be used when you yourself have been slandered. Your country or your country's position should not actually grant you a right of reply. However, it should be an attack directed towards yourself or your person. All those wishing to speak, please raise your placards now. The United Kingdom.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Furthermore, I believe that the delegate of Argentina has been using shady and underhanded tactics the whole time, so we should not really believe what she says.
Right of reply?
That would be granted.
Thank you, Delegate of the United Kingdom. Actually, I would like to point out that Argentina has never used any underhanded tactics to distribute their pretzels. In fact, we are not even in favor of pretzels, so I don't understand why you would think that we would be distributing them in our country in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. As a reminder to all delegates, please avoid using personal pronouns when addressing the committee. Alright, so in this video, let's talk about yields. So that's something that we haven't really talked about thus far, but what it is, it's when you have a speech and you finish your speech, you can yield your time, your remaining time, if there is any, to another delegate, alright? So this can also be made in a moderated caucus. You can specify a yield if you would like. Typically, what we do is we have an automatic yield, which is the yield to the chair. So you finish your speech, you sit back down, and the rest of the time goes to the chair, right? And the chair does whatever they want, kind of basically moves on to the next speaker with that time. But there are a few others that you can do. Now, technically speaking, this should never really happen, but it does. And technically speaking, you are allowed to do it, however, I would not recommend it. You can stand up and you can yield your remaining time to another delegate. Now, this should really be done unless there's something very vital you need that delegate to say, and it's specifically that that delegate has to say it. You shouldn't be doing this just to get your buddy to speak again. Chairs look down upon that. They look down upon the delegate that is referred to as well. And you definitely shouldn't be using this to spite other delegates. I've seen that happen as well, where they stand up and they yield it to another delegate unsuspecting, and they have to suddenly make a speech or stand up or whatever it might be. So yeah, don't do that, but just keep that in mind. You can yield your time to another delegate. The other things that are more common is a yield to questions and a yield to comments. Comments technically usually aren't used. That causes a lot of back and forth, something that we also aren't technically allowed in Mollyman, right? We don't want back and forth between delegates. It's not an argument, it's to the committee. However, comments are allowed, used very sparingly. In fact, I don't think I've ever actually seen one in an actual conference. But questions, yield to questions is something that's actually quite useful. So you can either specify that in the moderated caucus, or actually, yeah, you basically specify it in a moderated caucus. Technically speaking, again, when you finish your speech, you can say, I yield my time to questions, but the chair would basically not look favorably upon that whatsoever. That's technically something that you should never really do. However, here's a quick tip for you guys. If you do have a yield to questions, not only does it allow for more debate and more little bit of back and forth, but more discussion to actually happen on the topic, it also allows you to have more speeches, because even if the chair isn't talking or isn't picking you to speak, that's what I meant to say, then when you have other delegates who finish a speech, if no one else has a question and you do, well, the chair has to pick you, because the chair will ask, okay, delegates with a question with the remaining time, right? And that gives you the opportunity and the ability to be able to speak more. That's a great way to do it. That's a great way to drive points home as well. If delegates aren't necessarily strong on what they're saying, if they have a flaw in the plan that you don't have to wait to get it to your last or first speech or your next speech or wherever it might be, sometimes you miss the bucket on actually getting your point out because it happened so long ago that it's not even relevant anymore. There's no point in saying it. So that's a good way to use questions. Just keep that in mind. So there are different yields. There's the yield your time to the chair. A lot of delegates like to finish with that as well. However, I wouldn't recommend it. That's just kind of like you're filling up your time because you didn't have enough things to say in your speech, alright? The other thing that you should keep in mind is we do have yield to questions, we have yield to comment, and we do have yields to other delegates. However, the only one that I would recommend you actually use would be yield to questions. Alright, so I hope that helped with yields. Alright, so this kind of brings the end of most of what we're trying to do for this delegate training series videos in terms of the, I guess, beginner videos anyways. So there are a few more things that I think we've left out. We're just going to wrap up here. Tabling the topic, what that means. So basically that means you're finished the topic. You know, when you set the order of agenda, let's say you're setting the topic to 2, 3, 1. Once you're finished with topic 2, you would table it and move on to the next one. Typically speaking, you don't actually have to finish the topic. You can kind of just go, well, we've gotten nowhere, it's time to move on. That's really frowned upon though in terms of Mall United Nations anyways. The UN does that quite often actually, and they revisit topics and do whatever they need to do. But that's basically tabling, so that's a motion to table the topic. The chair will see to whether or not you'd like to do that, alright? And now there are a couple other things as well. We never did talk about dress code. You should have a very kind of Western business attire, alright? No, really, I guess generally speaking, no like leather jackets, sleeveless shirts, tank tops, whatever you're thinking of, you know. That's just not professional, it's not what people of the UN would wear. So don't wear that. Think of it as a job interview, think of it as something to that extent where you would dress up a little bit nicer, alright? It's also good to make yourself presentable. It helps when working with other people. Not to pick out on anything either, but you know, when I was in Montreal at a conference, there were a lot of private school kids that were looking down at other delegates because they weren't dressed as well, shall we say. So that does happen. I'm not saying that you need a $10,000 suit or whatever it might be, but just make sure you look presentable, clean, and all that great stuff, alright? So I'd say that's another quick tip for you. Make sure you're always writing notes. That's really important for everything. Friendly notes, making friends, that's the whole point of Mall UN, right? Having some friends, having some fun times, and making some friends. So that's really important as well. Don't think of it as a really competitive nature. It is in my, I guess you could say, philosophy or belief that as an individual, when you do something and you do it well and you enjoy it and you play fairly, if you've done it correctly, then you'll be rewarded as such with the awards. Don't be that guy or that girl either at the conference who's just going for that award, doesn't care about people, doesn't care about people's feelings, is not having a good time, super stressed. Just, you know, have some fun, alright? So that brings an end of kind of all my tips and tricks for you guys. As always, you can always let me know if you have any other ideas, questions, comments, things you want me to do, more videos you might need. I'll see if I can do that. And thank you for your time. Thank you for watching all these videos. This is probably around chapter 15, 18. Don't know, I haven't really finished everything yet, but yeah, thanks for sticking around. Hope this entire series has helped, and it might help to rewatch it a couple times, so thanks again. My name is Chris, and this has been How to Mon with Chris.